Hi everybody, I'm Bay Forrest with Focus Ministries, and in our last video series that we had together, we were looking at submission to the Master and not just running in circles. We looked at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 that tells us to trust God and don't count on our own understanding. Let Him direct our paths. Let Him lead. And then we really emphasized Psalm 46:10 that says, be still or stop your striving and simply rest in knowing God is in control. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how this all fits together. Every year we take all of these horses down south for the wintertime. About the 1st of December we take them, and for 5 months they're out on open pasture, a big piece of property, big ranch, and they get to just run free for that 5 months together. And they're in with other horses, and they establish their own little herd together with everybody, and they end up getting pretty independent because of all of that. And when I go get them and bring them back, sometimes not only are they independent, but they're a bit unruly. Kind of like this one here. This is Tally. This is my wife's horse, and she's a little mare, and she's the sweetest riding horse ever. And when Peg rides her, she's fantastic, but she's hard to catch sometimes. She doesn't really want you to walk right over to her, and she needs to learn submission. Peg called her Tally because of when Jesus rose the little girl from the dead, and when Jesus said Talitha cum, and that meant little girl, get up. Well, this is Peg's little girl, and Tally is a little girl, but she can have a bit of an attitude at times too. Not a mean attitude, but she can have problems. And so what I do is when I bring these horses back, I isolate them. Tally's here. You can see that Walker's back over here. Peg's gonna move the camera over there, and then our other little horse, he said hi to you, opens up his mouth for you there, and Scout's way back in the back corner over there. They're all in their own pens because I need to isolate these guys for about 2 weeks. Isolating them is what helps them to become dependent and to trust me. They have to count on my provision and my authority as their master. I take care of all their needs. I provide their food and their water. Now their food, they got to eat unlimited amounts of food when they were out on that pasture. So now they don't get as much as what they used to get, but they get enough, and I'm trying to get them in better shape. Not only do I give them good food and water, but I bring in somebody and they all get their shoes on, so they're going to be prepared for the summer of the fun things we have planned and have in store for them and for us together. So all of this is an awful lot like what it's been for us going through this lockdown with the coronavirus. And what's happened with us is we've been isolated the same way that these guys have been isolated. And what it's done is we've been forced to settle, to not be all over the place, doing our own thing, enjoying everything we want in life. And it's kind of like Jesus talked about in Revelation chapter 4, verse 2, where he tells the church, I do have this one thing against you. You've forgotten your first love. And this is something that I want us to think about even for today, because even with what the reports I've heard of the coronavirus and the lockdown, I'm really thankful for followers of Jesus, for Christ followers that have decided, you know what, if I'm going to be locked down, I'm going to take advantage of this, and I'm going to use it in a way that draws me closer to God. That's what God wants sometimes from these timeouts that we have, where we have to learn the importance of just being still, stopping our striving, and knowing that He's God. Now, my prayer for each of us for during this lockdown time, because it's not going to last forever, but while we do have this time where we're settled and we don't have the opportunity to be all over the place, let's take advantage of opportunities to listen to God, to hear from Him, and to draw into closer relationship with Him. That we won't forget our first love, that we'll be seeking time with Him where we do have that time, so that when we get out of this, we look back and say, that was one of the best times of my life, because I've not always had that much time to spend with God. So let's make sure, once this lockdown is over, that we can look back and see that we had good time with God, with family, and with friends. Now, it may not be in person, but it can be through phone, through internet, through emails, or however that we have opportunity to connect with other people. But most importantly, let's make sure that we don't ignore our first love.